Morning world, it's Friday the 4th of September 2020, it's about 8:30 in the morning UK time. The book that got me into astrology, well the book and the person, happened to me about the late 1970s, and someone gave me a book to read called The North Node and Reincarnation. It's by a chap called Martin Schulman. It's still in print today, and it's the book that got me into astrology because I read the sections that pertain to me and I thought, how does this old man living in New York who's never met me know so much about me, and how did he work it out? And oh, I can do that. And that's the book that got me into astrology. Now it deals with a point in the horoscope called the North Node. The North Node is a mathematically worked out point. It's the average point on a 19-year cycle of where the plane of the moon's orbit intersects with the plane of the sun's orbit as seen from the Earth. It was introduced to Western astrology by Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society around the 1890s to the 1900s. And with it came the Hindu astrology translation of the North Node regarding karma. It suggested that, according to the Hindu doctrine of karma, that for those people who were unfortunate enough to live a poor life, as in living in the fields with their begging bowl and not a lot else, they didn't have a lot to aspire to. So the philosophy went that the more they struggled in this life, the more they had a good life this time, the better their life would be next time. Now this philosophy comes from a culture that's based on poverty and inequality of riches. I live in a Western society where I've spent a long time trying to sort out a Western definition of karma, and at the end of the day I don't really buy into reincarnation, not so much linear reincarnation anyway, because there's already more people on planet now than there has been in the whole of history put together. When I was born there was only 2 billion people on planet. At the start of last century there was only just 1 billion, and there's now 7 billion. So, linear reincarnation doesn't really work. Homeopathic reincarnation, where you have droplets of past memories of past lives, I can go with that because I have traced memories of past lives. But I'm sure it wasn't me that lived them, it's just sort of isolated memories, droplets, the homeopathic principle. Working with that idea, I come up with a new definition of karma for a Western astrological tradition, in that the North Node doesn't say about so much around what you did last life, what you're going to do next life, and how this life influences the future and learns from the past. Instead, the definition I use for the North Node pertains much more to a current day, immediate, here and now translation of the North Node, as words like mission statement, purpose, and reason why you volunteered to come to planet Earth in the first place, with the emphasis on you as an individual. You volunteered to come here, which kind of changes a lot of people's philosophies when they get their head around that one. But in recent weeks I've started to redefine this as well, and the whole notion of karma has a number of different meanings. Karma is, in many cultures and in many traditions, something that seems to have been imposed, essentially, to use one of my old favourite sayings, by a bunch of old men in skirts. It's the priesthood, who have used the idea of karma, behave, otherwise next time you'll suffer, as a tool to keep people down and to limit people in their thought patterns and their capacity for expanding their mind. And karma in a Western culture, well in fact in a global culture, seems to be intrinsically linked with the surreptitious or subconscious idea of guilt. Now, over the course of my life, I've done Guilt for England. And then a few years ago, I decided, right, I'm going to be a guilt-free zone anymore. Which doesn't mean just saying, right, I'm not going to do guilt anymore. It means living a life which is as guilt-free as I can possibly do it. Now, that's a personal choice. But I can't be doing with this notion of guilt. And I suggest that guilt is one of the biggest negative influences that's been sought to be imposed upon humanity over the last couple of millennia. So if we take out guilt from the word karma, what does that leave us? Well, I don't have any truck with any particular religion, although I do have a soft spot for certain forms of Buddhism, particularly the kind of Zen Buddhism that says that you are what you think, having become what you thought. And of course, the central tenet of Buddhism is know thyself. So it seems to me that karma is not so much a question of guilt, it is more a question of conscience. I.e., if you live a good life, or if you try to do your best, or if you don't even try, if you do your best, then you're going to be living in a clean conscience, because you know you've done your best. If, however, you're the type of person who will deliberately profit at the expense of others in a way that causes other people pain or difficulties, or if you're a person who will walk on other people just for your own personal gain, regardless of the consequences, then, well, at the end of the day, conscience is a personal thing. Now, I'm stuck by my own conditioning here because I have the moon in Sagittarius. And moon in Sagittarius people generally go out of their way to have as good a conscience as possible, on the grounds that the moon in Sagittarius says, well, simple works, complicated doesn't. And if you always tell the truth, then you never have to remember what you said. There are other certain astrological combinations which the negative side of them can indicate a kind of mercenary attitude, not necessarily benevolent towards oneself or to others. That's the negative side of it. There's negative and positive in every possible aspect. There is no one or group of aspects that denotes nastiness or negativity. Every aspect has two different sides, both positive and challenging. But it seems that as we move into the 21st century and we liberate ourselves slowly, gradually, painfully, from millennia of indoctrination, that really the only person you're answerable to yourself is to yourself. You're the only one who can tell you if you're a good person or a bad person or not, and anybody else who chooses to label you. Okay, so I'm being a little bit of an extremist here, because obviously the mass murderers, the child abusers, the real villains, yes, they are labelled by society, not by other individuals. And of course there are no hard and fast rules. Everything is fuzzy at the edges and adaptable nevertheless. After 40 years of astrological study, after 40 years plus of astrological study, I've come up with this idea that karma relates to conscience. And when I asked my own version of what I call the divine about, well, what is good karma? The word come back, living in grace, being as graceful as one can. So the notion of living a good life, and I don't know if there's anything after physical death. I believe there is, and I've had a number of intimations that there is, and that when I leave here I will go on into another dimension where there's a vastly expanded perception. That's my knowledge. But I can't be absolutely positive of it until the moment I die, which I'm not looking, well, I am looking forward to it, but I'm not in a rush. I'm not worried about death. The manner of it might be a bit of a concern. But until that time, it seems that we have nothing to lose by trying to be as good a person as we can. What's not to like? Or you can be a total git, in which case you don't have a lot of friends, you don't have the respect of people around you, and you don't have any self-respect unless you're a genuine narcissist. So I'm trying to dispel this notion of karma and guilt, whilst at the same time trying to reinforce this idea of having a clean and good conscience. On that note, I think I'll leave it for today. Catch you later, world. Bye.